Look, this is tough for me to say, but you need change. Your life needs to change. And I want to tell you about the different activities and skills and sports that I think can bring a bunch of improvements to your life. So focus in and let's have a chat. Jumbo, everyone. Welcome back to The Foss. Today, I wanted to talk to you about change in a general sense and the fear that people have around change because it's something that's outside of our comfort zone. It's something that people always fear because it's not their normal habit. See, we're creatures of habit and we like to know how things are going and that it's the same thing and that we're comfortable with it and it's not something that we haven't done before, that it's something that we know that we're safe at and that won't really push us too far. If we want to stay the same, we will, and that's just a choice that we make. But I can tell you from my experience that changes that I've made in my life that are outside of a comfort zone level that I set for myself were some of the scariest, but also some of the best decisions that I made. And the way that I've done it and the way that I do it with my business is I help people who are trying to do different alternative activities, sports, or skills that they haven't done before, or they want to try a different activity or sport or whatever it is, and they're not really sure how to do it and the skills to use and the way to strengthen themselves to be as ready and as confident for it as they can be. That's where I step in and I help people to find that right path that works for them. But most of the time when I suggest change to people or I suggest different sports or different activities to try in their life, usually I get met with the question of what if? And what if usually always leads all the statements of, well, what if I get injured? Or what if something bad happens? Or what if I'm not good at it? Or what if I'm not skilled at it? And I want to try to replace that with the phrase, let's see. So instead of thinking, what if I'm bad at it? Instead, replacing that with, let's see if I could be good at this. And let's see how I do after a few times of practicing it and a few times of experiencing that new activity, seeing what that can do for me and what I learned from it overall. So that's the goal of today, is kind of to change your what ifs instead to changing them to a let's see type of statement. So there's three key areas that I found that change has done a positive impact on my life, and I think it can do the same for you. The first one that I wanted to talk about is how change can make you more flexible and adaptable to the different situations that happen in your life. For me, my example is alternative sports. So in the background, I'm working on a series called Tried and Trained, which is all about me testing out different activities and skills and sports that I haven't tried before in the past, and then talking to people from a strength coach background of how I would train people in those activities, or if I was to continue that sport or activity myself. And with any of those, I'm not going to be good at them. I'm probably going to suck at them at first, and it's going to kind of take me down a bar, and maybe my confidence will be low for a second, and I won't really care because I know that having these new challenges in my life, or having these challenges with running, or these setbacks with running on my journey to Boston Qualify, that it'll be worth it whether I make it to that set point I want to or not, because I'm getting more comfortable with challenges and obstacles and things that come throughout my life. But all of the activities and all of the skills are transferable to other ways. So I'll give them an example. So to give you one example, let's say rock climbing, right? You've never done rock climbing. Let's say I've never done rock climbing, but you're wanting to try it. You're not really sure. You're asking those what if questions to yourself, but you need to try it. And when you do try it, you might not be good at first. Your grip will slip. You feel like you can't do much of anything on the wall, and you just won't feel skilled in it, and you won't be confident in it. But if you keep going at it and keep trying it, you'll eventually adapt some of those muscle patterns and learn some of the skills that you need to become better at it overall. And that'll translate to different areas, because trust me, if you've ever been rock climbing and you know how it feels with your grip and how it feels when you're trying to move on a wall, climbing up a ladder or something like that, it's a piece of cake afterwards. I'm not saying that people can't climb up ladders, but it's kind of the equivalent of pushing yourself outside of something you're normally comfortable with. Like, let's say that ladder climbing is something you're fine with, pushing to that rock climbing sort of zone, and then everything else under that zone becomes a lot simpler, I should say. It's not always easier, but it becomes a lot simpler, and you're able to adapt more. You're able to be more flexible to challenges that come into your life. The second bit of change of how it's good for you is unexpected opportunities. To give you my example, one of them is with my clients and the way that I've started my business and the way that I've done things. As far as marketing dollars, I've spent a big old goose egg on marketing dollars. It has been zero on that. And the reason for this is because I've just tried different ways of putting myself out there and exposing myself more, not indecently, get your mind out of the gutter, and basically just being myself around people on a kind of social media type setting, just like I'm talking to you right now. And that's helped out so much because I've given realities of my running journey and setbacks and positive things and things to change, and I answer people's questions and I give them actual answers. I don't say, oh, well, just buy my training program and that's the way that you can get this answer. No, I'm going to tell you what it is. If there is a solution where I can give you a paragraph or two, I will give you that answer. And doing that has opened up so many leads and connections that I didn't expect that it would. And that's just what happens when you change some habit of yours, where you put yourself out there. There's going to be some unexpected outcomes that come from that. Yes, there's positive and negative sides, but again, as long as you know the journey that you're going on and what you're trying to go for, both the negative comments and the positive comments shouldn't affect you at all. You should just keep on that journey that you're doing, and if those happen, cool. If they don't happen, cool. You just try to keep putting yourself out there. It's scary, but it takes practice, and when you do that, you'll get some interesting, unexpected opportunities. The third bit is looking at small changes over time to eventually make that big change that you've always wanted. So a good example for me is this podcast right now that we're doing. It's been little changes over time, getting used to it, and now I'm in the 10th episode. And with this 10th episode, I have learned a fair bit along the way, and it's just been about little changes over time, trying to adapt to different difficulties or sounding too monotone or whatever the case may be, and just building up that habit of these podcasts. Eventually, it makes me more comfortable over time as I go talking here to you and to other people. And just through that practice, I can tell that it still has a far way that it can go and that it can help a lot of other people. And perhaps someday it provides some extra income, which it does. Awesome. If not, also awesome, because I'm not doing this for a big check or income. I'm just doing it because I enjoy putting information out there that'll hopefully help you along the way. And maybe for you, it's not a podcast. It's not putting out more social media. Maybe it's running a marathon and you think, oh, I can never run a marathon. You can. You can do a marathon whatever way that you are able to do it. And when you do this, you'll find that the way to get to the marathon, instead of immediately making that big change, which is just doing that marathon, You start out by just running a little bit, or running and walking a little bit, or just walking and getting yourself out there to move. And then maybe you make a little change of putting some money aside to schedule a race out for 6 months from now. And maybe because of that, you try to change up your eating just a little bit, not fully, but just a little. And then you build on some fitness habits. And then all of these little changes, you're now in full marathon training mode, and you'll be ready when you get up to that 6-month mark and you get to that race. Something that's a big change in your life that you've never done. You don't really think about it as that big change. It's mostly just those small changes along the way that lead you to that big change. And even if you don't want to run, there's a lot of different changes that are small changes that can lead to something bigger. Let's say you always see people on social media and they're traveling, and in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm jealous that they're going to Hawaii or wherever it is. You can save up for something like that. It's just little changes and little comforts that kind of happen in your life that you're able to sacrifice for this bigger goal and this bigger change that you're wanting to do. And that is as easy as cutting out the Starbucks or something like that, right? If you go there and you do that every day, you get something, let's just say it's $5, even though everything there is like a bit more expensive most of the time. But let's say $5. Over a week, normal work week, that's $25 a week. That's about $100 a month. And then it's about $1,200 a year. I'm not saying that'll pay for a full Hawaii trip, but it's another way of really thinking about putting some money aside, small changes just throughout the day, doing your own coffee instead of going out to buy it at Starbucks all the time. That'll save you that money that can have that big change happen in your life. Those 3 points, just to cover them again. You can get flexibility and adaptability to different life challenges. 2, there's some interesting unexpected opportunities that come from these changes. And 3, small changes build up and become a big change that you are wanting in your life. I'm basically using this episode as a conclusion for the first season of this podcast. These first 10 I obviously haven't learned to talk in these first 10 episodes, but in these first 10 episodes, I have learned basically getting the basics down, to reuse my words. And these basics have been things that are just getting comfortable with the camera, working on stuff with lighting and audio and some of the technical stuff, and being more comfortable and how not to say and different random sounds like that. What's going to happen in season 2, I'm looking forward to a couple things. Number 1, I'm going to change this boring background if you're watching the video. It's just not really a space that feels comfortable there. There's stuff all over the ground that I hide out of sight. And I think it could be a more comfortable space where I feel more comfortable answering questions that people provide me, and it can feel more like a conversation versus just feeling like something monotone and boring at times. And it's basically going to be a testing season where I try some different formats for podcast episodes, and I have some interviews in there, here and there, and just different things. And there are going to be some changes that at first I'll be uncomfortable with, but I will get around that. I will adapt to it, overcome it, and in the end, it will provide a bigger change that I don't even expect at the moment. Thank you for your time. Remember to take chances, make mistakes, and always ask questions. Talk to you soon.